Welcome to the Fabulous Lifestyle Radio Show. Tune in for a vibrant mix of fashion, finance, and life's essential foundations. Join us for expert interviews, insightful discussions, and empowering insights to elevate your lifestyle. From fashion trends to financial tips and personal growth strategies, we've got you covered. So grab your headphones and get ready to be inspired. Tune in now to the Fabulous Lifestyle Radio Show and embark on this exciting journey with us.
And we're back with our guest, Jeanette McDermott. When we left off, she was telling us about her fabulous career in the Navy and then in the Army as a journalist and her love of storytelling. And now we're going to continue the conversation, and she's going to share her beliefs and on how she sees storytelling as service. And I say this because she has just been recognized as a literary artist in the 2025 St. Louis Publishers Association anthology. And so going from being a journalist to being an author, how do you see that difference? And how do you view storytelling as a service?
Yeah, storytelling has just always been in my blood, just growing up with those stories on the news and telling stories in the military. And then when I got out of the service, I went into corporate communications and told those kind of stories, then nonprofit communications and told ministry type stories. So it's always been about connecting and that, really finding our way, truth telling, really. My kind of storytelling has always been truth telling, documentary films. I've made 7 documentary films. I've always told, journalism type, objective stories. And so it's just always been important for me to be able to pull out of people the truth of who they are and where that has led them in life, kind of like what you're doing with me. And the same, those are my favorite kind of stories, when you really get to the depth and the heart, because that's what connects us. That's really what I think storytelling connects us as humans universally. And it bridges that gap of differentiation and finds that one thing that we're all holding common, and that's our truth, our stories, and who we are as individuals and how that plays out in our lives through our choices and our decisions. And to me, that's very exciting to tell those kinds of stories because they become transformational. And others then can maybe gain some strength and some insight and say, wow, you know what? If she did that, maybe I could do that. If she persevered, if she survived that, if she overcame, what am I afraid of? Maybe I can live my own life, and follow my journey and my path that I'm put on earth to do. So that's kind of what inspires me in storytelling, is getting to the truth and the heart of who we are. And just, I really believe affirming stories carry us through our days and give us the power and strength to persevere in some ways that otherwise maybe we wouldn't, when we can pull from other people. And our stories matter, especially when we share them. It's really important to share our stories.
I absolutely agree. I think that storytelling weaves us together. Um, but I still want the differentiation between journalism and being an author, because it's so, like, how did it make you feel to be published? And how do you feel as a journalist when you're doing that aspect?
Yes, that's a great question because I'm still kind of flying high from it. I just found out I went to the literary festival, the 40th anniversary literary festival in Chicago this past weekend. And while I was there, I got the news that I had been accepted into the anthology as a literary artist. And writing that essay, it may sound like no big deal, but for a journalist, it's a big stretch because you use so much flowery words and synesthesia and metaphors and you weave a story like a storyteller for literary devices. But in journalism, it's the who, what, when, where, why, and how. And it's very formulaic, the inverted pyramid. You start with the lead and the bridge, and you follow the formula, and you get right to the heart of it, and you don't interject your subjectivity. But in literary writing, it's all subjective. So you can say what you want, and you can even embellish it if it's not true all the way. You can make, characters that then carry it forward in new ways. And it felt really awkward at first. I thought, oh my God, this is pathetic. Nobody's going to want this. I mean, this writing is all over the place. It's just so not right. It just felt that awkward to me because it was such a different way of writing. And so when I got accepted, it was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So it was a whole new way of expression for me, creative expression, a different kind of truth telling, telling my story of leaving St. Louis to go in the Navy, and 38 years later returning because of parasites that I got in the jungle when I was living in the jungle for 3 years, off the grid with no electricity, no running water. And I got a lot of, food handling parasites that they couldn't cure in Central America. So the essay is like a hero's journey. It's my journey from leaving St. Louis and being gone almost 4 decades and returning because of parasites. And the reason I came back to St. Louis is because it's the leading parasite research facility in the world. St. Louis University, medical research facility for parasites. In my hometown, I had no idea. So
Wow. Okay,
I
you
know.
okay, so that story, I'm going to get to the parasites in the next section and the whole and that whole thing. But what's fascinating about what you're sharing is the different types of writing and the ability to tell the story in different words. And the words you use give the story something different. And it is my belief that whatever story we tell is the life that we lead, right? So when we wake up, we get to rewrite our story each and every day. And so for you going from who, what, where, when, right?
Right, right.
To when people add those words to what they're doing, they're shifting their story. Like because I worked as a lawyer and I know that when you enter a courtroom, everybody has a filter that filters their who, what, where, and when. And you know that too, because especially when you're talking about your work in Ireland, and at that time you were going back and forth, everybody that you interviewed had a filter.
Yes.
And they were born with that filter, and they have all of these thoughts and beliefs that they grew up with, and it's generational. And so it's my storytelling and the power of words can shift that. Just
Yes, it does, Teresa. That's really, I love the way you couched that, the way you said that, because it also shifts in your own mind who you now are, and how you can be different in this new, just through a different way of writing. It shifts your mindset and almost sets a whole nother tableau or layer of who you are and stepping into that. Because like when I went to our Publishers Association and we had an event the other night, we all got our photos taken and everything. People are asking different kinds of questions about me as a writer than they did as me as a journalist. And it's like, wow, the questions just kind of came out of left field, like oddball kind of
okay, what
question.
did they ask? What did they ask?
Well, like where did you get your inspiration to tell that piece of your story with such a literary device? With all these kind of flowery word in a very flowing, you know, go around your elbow to get you your thumb, as we would say in journalism, because it's not direct. And it's like, I haven't even thought about that. It just came. I mean, it just happened. The writing came through me, and I didn't even have to put much thought into it. It just poured through me. It's almost like it had been waiting to tell itself, the story in that particular fashion. It's kind of weird. I'm listening to Stephen King on writing right now, how he talks about what it means to be a writer. And he talks about that, how as a fiction writer, when you're developing characters and they come to life, you don't even know where they come from. They just boom, appear, and you grow them and you develop them. And you're like, where did that person come from? And that's how literary writing was for me with this essay. It was just kind of hard to
It
explain.
seems exciting.
It
Like,
is really excited. It is. Yeah.
and so tell me about the festival. Um, what was it like being there? Who did you meet? Were there heroes there? Were you on a panel?
No, I actually went as an observer to see how other published authors handle themselves, because there were a lot of presenters and panels and booths and tents with authors there and tents with publishers there representing their authors and I went kind of in a fact-finding mode, kind of as a journalist, I really did.
Mhm.
And I started interviewing people and what this is all about, because I know that's what I want to do as a writer going forward in this new phase of my writing. And with my book almost finished on the Black Madonna Shrine, I'll be you know, in that tribe of literary, writers. So I went there to fact find, to see how others present themselves, what it looks like, what kinds of questions people ask them, how comfortable they are with their book, how they promote it. And it was good. And I told them about mine, and it's a very supportive community. The writing community is very supportive. So that was thrilled. And I've been asked to enter my photographs into an anthology in Iowa because of a woman I met there. So I'm going to do that. And I'm just going to see where this photojournalism career for the past 5 decades can take me into my new phase.
I'm enjoying the fact that you're saying yes to all of these possibilities. So, but it seems like you've been saying yes your whole life. You said yes to yourself. You went into the Navy, then you went into the Army. And what triggered the shift from journalist to author? Like what? I'm just curious.
Yeah, you know what it was? I was at a meeting at the St. Louis Publishers Association that I had joined to be among other writers in the Writers Guild. And I sat next to a woman and she said, "Tell me about your story. Tell me who you are. What do you do as a writer? Why are you in this association?" So I told her, well, I was in the military, I'm a journalist. And she just kept asking me questions, like interviewing me. And she says, "Oh my gosh, you've got to enter an essay into the anthology," because she's the editor of the anthology. I didn't even know that at the time. And she said, "You've got to enter an essay." I said, "But I don't write essays, I write articles." She says, "No, you just told me an entire essay. You just told me an essay. Not, it wasn't an article because you used all kinds of flowing language and you just kept weaving it." So I went home that night and I thought, you know what? Why not? By golly, I'm going to do it. I've always kind of wondered what it would be like to be a literary author, and this is my opportunity to give it a shot. So I did.
Okay, so you're going from literary author and then perhaps to a full author of a complete book, and that coming. But we're not going to talk about that right now because we have so much to talk to you about. Oh, but that's so fascinating. So for everybody listening, Jeanette has said yes to everything. She sat down, she saw an opportunity, and she went for it. Now, it has been my experience that people in the military generally don't have the same fear factor that the rest of humanity has, you know, because our military is trained to walk into fear. I mean, am I right?
Absolutely. Yes, 100%. Yeah,
Wow.
right down to live fire exercises, where the weapons are, real bullets are over your head and you're learning to low crawl and get through barbed wire and you don't dare put your head up or you get killed. I mean, yeah, you do. You just go through fire and brimstone.
Well, you're one of the rare exceptions. I usually interview a lot of people and they talk about walking through fear. And you were trained to walk through bullets.
And you have to remember, I grew up on a battlefield with all boys, all brothers. So I was trained at an early age to face fear and deal with it.
So this is more of her just finding joy in saying yes to things and just jumping in. And so it's time for a break. And when we get back, we're going to discuss what happened when Jeanette found parasites and all of these things in the jungle, how she experienced somebody dying in the jungle from dehydration, and how her life changed as a result of that. So we will be
Welcome to the Fabulous Lifestyle Radio Show, where we talk about food, fashion, finance, and foundations of life. We are live on KCAA Radio Broadcasting Network. KCAA is affiliated with CNBC, NBC News, and NBC Sports. We are sponsored by Sheltered Studios, Fire Connect, and Building Solid Foundation.